order. Before I begin my formal remarks, I would like to recognize the passing of two extraordinary soldiers, General Colin Powell and General Raymond Odierno. Their selfless service to the nation, remarkable courage, and remarkable commitment to the men and women of our armed services has sustained and inspired us all. They have left a legacy of honor and commitment that will be a beacon for future generations of Americans. To their families, I express our profound sympathy and thank you very much. The committee meets this morning to consider the nominations of Mr. Nickolas Guertin to be Director of Operational Tests and Evaluation, Ms. Alexandra Baker to be Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Mr. John Coffey to be General Counsel of the Department of the Navy, and Mr. Douglas Bush to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. I thank the nominees for their long careers of service to the United States and their willingness to assume these important roles. I would also like to welcome the family members who are with us today. Mr. Guertin, I welcome your wife Maria, son Enrico, and daughter Isabella. Ms. Baker, I welcome your husband Sam. And Mr. Coffey, I welcome your wife Ann and son Connor. And Mr. Bush, I welcome your wife Patricia. Mr. Guertin, you are nominated to be the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation, or DOT&E. This position is responsible for all operational and live fire review, testing, and evaluation activities. Your long career of technology and weapons development in military, industry, and academic roles should serve you well. There are a number of challenges that will require your attention within the department. Of note, it is important for DOT&E to be independent and resist pressure from the services and industry to deploy systems that are not yet operationally effective. You will be responsible for oversight of a number of programs, including the F-35, the Army Integrated Visual Augmentation System, the Navy Ford-class carrier, space satellite systems, and missile defense programs. While there's always a demand to move more rapidly in acquisition, it is critical that you ensure we do so prudently. Indeed, we must move both rapidly and prudently in acquisition. Another challenge will be developing ways to test new information technology programs, including commercial cloud computing services, as well as ensuring robust cybersecurity testing on all systems. In addition, concerns have been raised about potential reductions in the workforce that supports live fire testing. I would ask that you share your plan on addressing these challenges. Ms. Baker, you are nominated to serve as Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. Your current role as Senior Director for Strategic Planning on the National Security Council and previous experience in Congress, the DoD and OMB, will be valuable in this new position. If confirmed, you will have a broad scope of responsibility in advising and assisting the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy and the Secretary of Defense on a range of issues, including strategic competition with a rising China, the COVID-19 pandemic, cyber threats, and climate change. In the immediate term, the Policy Office is revising the 2022 National Defense Strategy. The NDS will play a critical role in defining the United States' national security priorities, but coordinated across the department and the federal government will be a challenge. I hope you will share how you plan to integrate the NDS with the administration's whole-of-government approach. In the coming months, the department will also publish the Nuclear Posture Review. I'm interested in your testimony on a number of issues relating to the Nuclear Posture Review, including modernization of all three legs of the triad, updating on nuclear facilities, the role of arms control, and ongoing strategic stability talks. Mr. Coffey, you are nominated to be General Counsel of the Department of the Navy. This position is responsible for providing legal services throughout the department in a vast array of fields, including acquisition-related law, arms control, business and commercial law, and national security-related law, among many others. The General Counsel also assists in ethics, intelligence, criminal investigation, and law enforcement activities. I would note your extensive career in the Navy, your extensive legal career, and you should be well prepared for this very responsible job. One of Secretary Austin's priorities is to eradicate extremism within the ranks. While we continue to believe that the number of extremists in ranks remains very small, even one is too many. And I hope you will share your views on how you will approach this issue, especially as the line between action, thought, and speech becomes much more difficult to define. Mr. Bush, you are nominated to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. If confirmed, you will oversee Army research, development, acquisition, program sustainment, and logistics activities, as the Army is undertaking its most expansive modernization effort in decades. You will be well served by your experience, which includes nearly 2 decades of congressional legislative work, including with the House Armed Services Committee. You will be responsible for balancing the need for rigorous cost management with the need to move quickly and use tailored acquisition approaches. To achieve this, it will be necessary to strengthen the Army's workforce and capacity while improving data available to the Army and DoD to more effectively acquire and sustain Army weapons systems. Importantly, you will also be responsible for overcoming the so-called Valley of Death, ensuring that the Army is able to turn research innovations into real operational capabilities. This will require strengthening connections between research and engineering activities and the Army's acquisition programs and defense contractors. It will also include investing in and protecting the people and infrastructure at organizations like the Army's labs and test ranges. I look forward to hearing how you will address these challenges. I thank you again to the nominees. Senator Inhofe is unable to join us this morning, but I will request unanimous consent to include his opening statement in the record. Without objection, so ordered. And now, Mr. Guertin, could you please give your statement?
Chairman Reed, Ranking Member Inhofe, and distinguished members of the committee, it is a privilege to be with you here today. I am humbled to be considered to serve as the Director for Operational Test and Evaluation. I'd like to thank President Biden, Secretary Austin, and Deputy Secretary Hicks for entrusting me with this nomination. I'd also like to thank my family, who you see behind me, for their support, Maria, my wife of almost 20 years, and our twin children, Enrico and Isabella, of whom we are both immensely proud. The greatest asset of the Department of Defense is undoubtedly its people. Our men and women in uniform and our civilian and contractor workforce make the American military the best in the world. However, our ability to defend the nation also depends on the capabilities of our technologies, which must be tested as they would be used in combat. Injecting operationally realistic testing early into the program's development allows the department to implement affordable, comprehensive changes, making the best and most efficient use of taxpayer resources, and ultimately achieving the greatest possible performance. Transparency on the results of those tests are critical to ensuring the most effective, suitable, survivable, and where necessary, lethal performance. If confirmed, I am committed to ensuring that the Office of the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation will deliver an independent, objective, and authoritative evaluation of system performance to you and to Secretary Austin. Testing the way we fight in the future will require evolutionary and revolutionary changes, ones that cannot be successfully planned or implemented without teamwork. It will require increased reliance on state-of-the-art testing infrastructure and tools and a well-trained test and evaluation workforce in order to support faster and more efficient evaluation of complex, interconnected systems in a joint multi-domain operational environment. It will require reliance on innovative methods like credible virtual environments and modeling and simulation tools to complement on-range and laboratory testing. If confirmed, I am committed to working closely with our research and engineering community, acquisition programs, and the services so that together we can most effectively deliver capability to the joint force. I take this commitment on national security seriously, having spent the past 4 decades working on, developing, testing, fielding, and researching the acquisition of military systems. I started my career as an enlisted nuclear power plant operator on submarines. I later transitioned to the reserves and, after graduating college, landed a job as a Navy civilian engineer. Shortly afterwards, I was also commissioned as a Navy Reserve engineering duty officer. This citizen-sailor pairing would serve me well the following decade by keeping me grounded in what it took to do maintenance, operations, and testing in the fleet while also developing new systems. Testing had long been central tenet to this experience, from developing automated test equipment for weapon systems to testing and deploying new sensors and combat management systems that were built to change and improve over time. Improving acquisition practices for national security systems has long been a passion of mine. It started when I was fortunate enough to be on the team that pioneered the use of open architectures for sonar systems in the mid-1990s. I've been on the forefront of developing and applying a wide array of improved acquisition practices and helping others do the same ever since. More recently, while at Carnegie Mellon University's Software Engineering Institute, I learned a great deal more about evolving practices of software-reliant system architectures, test automation, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, to name a few. While at the SEI, I also extended the research I performed while in government on advanced system development methods for improving DoD acquisition. As Secretary Austin has testified, we have the greatest equipment in the world. If confirmed, it is my objective to ensure that assessment continues to hold true, providing for the best trained, best equipped, and most capable fighting force in the world. It would be an honor to contribute to that mission and to serve as the Director for Operational Test and Evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guertin. Ms. Baker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you also to the ranking member and members of this committee. It's an honor to be before you today as President Biden's nominee for the position of Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. I'm grateful to the President, Secretary Austin, and Undersecretary Call for their trust and confidence in me. I want to thank my husband, Sam, who is here with me today and who shares my deep commitment to the values that this country was founded upon. I also want to acknowledge my mother, who is watching at home and who came to this country as a refugee and taught me the importance of giving back. My father, who enlisted in the Army in 1969 and who always considered his military service to be the formative experience of his life. He passed away earlier this year, but it's my honor to continue the family tradition of service. The job of the Department of Defense is to deter adversaries and to fight and win the nation's wars should deterrence fail. In short, to keep Americans safe. There is no more sacred mission. Today, we have entered a new era of strategic competition, and we must update our policies, our operations, our capabilities, and our workforce to meet the moment. I believe that there is no time to waste. China is the pacing challenge for the department. As the President's interim national security guidance states, it is the only competitor that is capable of combining its economic, diplomatic, military, and technological power to mount a sustained challenge to a stable and open international system. To meet this challenge, we will need to invest in capabilities that are relevant not only to the last fight, but to future ones. We will need creative and agile operational concepts and plans that rapidly assimilate and take advantage of technological advances. We will need a high-end and combat-capable, ready force that is forward-positioned, distributed, and resilient. We will need to operate seamlessly across all domains, and we will need increased interoperability with strong and capable partners and allies who are proficient in their warfighting roles. If I'm confirmed, I will work tirelessly to support those priorities. As the NSC's Senior Director for Strategic Planning, I've been tasked with drafting the President's national security strategy and coordinating it with our departments and agencies, and as well with our closest allies and partners. At the same time, the department has been updating the National Defense Strategy, building on the strong foundation provided in the 2018 NDS to reflect new developments in the strategic environment and new insights about the intentions and the capabilities of our adversaries. If confirmed, my first priority will be to help implement the NDS with a focus on better integrating policies work with other DoD components, with our interagency partners, and with our allies. Beyond implementing the NDS, if confirmed, I will also seek to support the Undersecretary in executing his priorities. These include rising to the challenge China poses. It includes defeating the COVID-19 pandemic, which remains the most immediate threat to U.S. national security and to the health and safety and readiness of our men and women in uniform. We also continue to face a growing cyber threat from both state and non-state actors, including to our critical infrastructure. The department will need to continue to defend forward to protect its networks while building the resilience necessary to deny our adversaries' ability to threaten our nation in this domain. Climate change represents another department-wide focus, given its potential to drastically change the operational environment and its current impact on our bases and facilities around the world. If confirmed, I'm committed to ensuring that policy is best positioned to advance these priorities. We have the greatest military in the world, but at the end of the day, it's about people, both our service members and our civilian workforce. I believe that policy is the beating heart of the Office of the Secretary of Defense. It is the place where deep expertise, long-standing regional relationships meet next-generation approaches that integrate new concepts, new ideas, new warfighting capabilities. The policy organization has been challenged in recent years, and if confirmed in this role, I will seek to assist the undersecretary in leading and renewing the organization, breaking down silos, facilitating communication and cooperative approaches, and improving effectiveness. My commitment to the workforce will be to focus relentlessly on organizational health and morale so that policy is postured to provide a strong and constructive civilian voice in the department for years to come. As a former Senate staffer, I have a deep appreciation for the critical role that this committee and this body plays. I want to express my gratitude to the committee for its many decades of bipartisan, cooperative focus on the defense of our nation and for your thoughtful oversight of our military. If confirmed, I look forward to working with you in a spirit of partnership to continue that tradition. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Mr. Coffey, please.
Thank you, Chairman Reed, and other distinguished members of the committee. I want to begin by thanking my wife of over 32 years, Ann, and our children, Kate, Cameron, and Connor. I cannot say enough about what their support and patience has meant as I pursued parallel careers in the law and in the Navy. And I'm so pleased that Ann and Connor could be here today. I'm very grateful to President Biden for his trust and confidence in nominating me to serve as General Counsel of the Department of the Navy. I thank the committee and its staff for making time over the past few weeks to discuss my nomination. I am eager to return to public service and hope to earn your support. I would like to address briefly why I believe that, if confirmed, I would bring a number of pertinent strengths to the role of Navy General Counsel. First, I have for over 30 years led a varied career in the law, including several years as a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York, and as a civil litigator handling some of the nation's most challenging and impactful cases. I have experience solving difficult problems, building effective teams, providing candid, timely counsel, and advocating for my clients' interests. Second, I served in the United States Navy for over 30 years as a midshipman at the Naval Academy, on active duty for 8 years, and after graduating from Georgetown Law's night program while I was stationed here in Washington, as a reservist for another 18 years. I served in several operational roles, including as a P-3 Orion mission commander tracking Soviet submarines, and I was privileged to be selected twice for command. In Washington, I had the opportunity to serve as personal aide to Vice President George H.W. Bush and to serve in various Pentagon policy and planning roles. Third, I bring the perspective as a child of immigrants. I am humbled by the opportunity that, if confirmed, I could once again serve the country that drew my parents here from Ireland 7 decades ago. I grew up in a home where my 6 younger siblings and I were told on a near daily basis that if we did our homework, applied ourselves, and went to Mass, there was no limit to what we could accomplish in America. Our family went through some tough times. My dad was a construction worker who was out of work when the economy went sour, but our parents always reminded us that we were lucky because we were Americans, and that because we had been given this great gift, much was expected of us. These principles have animated much of my life, leading me to take the oath of office to defend our Constitution as a 17-year-old midshipman in Annapolis, and after completing my obligated service, to continue to serve in the reserve for almost 2 decades while juggling a family and a career in New York. And Senators, it's why I sit here today ready, if confirmed, to bring all of my experience, energy, and love of country to the role of Navy General Counsel. If confirmed, my top priority would be to ensure that the Office of the General Counsel robustly supports the mission of the Navy and Marine Corps by providing the timely, candid, and accurate legal advice they need to carry out their missions successfully. If confirmed, I would also focus on taking care of our sailors, Marines, department civilians, and their families, which I know firsthand from my tour as commanding officers enables mission success. And if confirmed, I would seek to promote a culture where ethical decision-making is paramount throughout the Department of the Navy. Relatedly, I would work hard to leverage the office to ensure that every taxpayer dollar that the Navy is given is spent wisely, fully accounted for, and subject to effective oversight and full transparency to this committee and to the American public. If confirmed, I look forward to working with Navy Secretary Del Toro, the senior leadership of the Pentagon, and this committee, doing so in the bipartisan tradition that is a prized hallmark of this committee. Thank you for your consideration of my nomination. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. Mr. Bush, please.
Chairman Reed, Ranking Member Inhofe, and members of the committee, I'm honored to appear before you today as President Biden's nominee to be Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. I'm humbled by the faith President Biden, Secretary Austin, and Secretary Wormuth have placed in me by nominating me to fill this critical role for the United States Army. I'm also humbled to sit before you, leaders of an institution, the United States Congress, where it was my honor and privilege to serve as a staff member for almost 19 years. I would like to start by thanking the many people who've supported me during my 28 years of public service, starting with my wife, Tricia, who has been by my side for 24 of those years, my father and mother, Donald and Sandra Bush, who sacrificed greatly to give me every opportunity in life to succeed, and the many superb Army officers and non-commissioned officers who taught me what it means to serve my country and to lead soldiers, both at West Point and during my time as a young officer. Here in Congress, I was fortunate to work for many members on both sides, but I owe my chance to serve in Congress especially to Senator Bill Nelson, Congressman Jim Cooper, Congressman Neil Abercrombie, Congressman Ike Skelton, and House Armed Services Committee Chairman Adam Smith. Finally, I want to thank the outstanding Army officers and civilians I was honored to work with during my 6 months as an acting Assistant Secretary of the Army earlier this year. If confirmed, I am eager to take on the challenge of leading the Army's acquisition enterprise during a period of dramatic change. The Army is in the early years of what promises to be its most significant equipment modernization in nearly 40 years. If confirmed, I would be responsible for bringing to fruition many efforts that a talented and dedicated group of Army military and civilian leaders who came before me set in motion. Having supported congressional oversight of Army programs for many years and serving in the role I have been nominated for in an acting capacity for 6 months, I'm confident I know how to achieve this goal. If confirmed, I would work diligently to meet the objectives of Secretary Wormuth, other department senior leaders, and Congress. My priorities would include the following. First, I would place a laser-like focus on program execution and performance to ensure rapid delivery of improved equipment to our soldiers. For many years, Congress has directed acquisition reforms on accelerating the pace of delivery. I will orient my decisions toward taking action to advance programs and deliver effective equipment while ensuring appropriate oversight of program cost and performance. Second, I believe the Army must get better at acquiring software, using all the available tools Congress has provided. Many efforts are underway to shift software acquisition from an industrial age to an information age approach. If confirmed, I intend to further accelerate those efforts. Third, the Army must return to a focus on security in its acquisition efforts, including cybersecurity and supply chain security. Both are necessary to deliver capabilities uncompromised by the aggressive efforts of China, Russia, and other countries. Fourth, I believe that realistic operational testing is an aid rather than a hindrance to delivering effective equipment to the Army. Taking a little extra time and effort to fully test systems up front ensures that contractors are held accountable and problems are identified on test ranges rather than in combat. Finally, and most critically, I will work to ensure Army modernization is closely coordinated with Congress. The Army cannot achieve any of its modernization goals without the support of and partnership with Congress. In closing, I want to assure members that while the position I have been nominated for deals principally with the acquisition of equipment, I am also aware of the larger context our Army faces. The potential threats to our military are many. We are tested by our adversaries on a seemingly daily basis. While Army acquisition is only a small part of confronting these challenges, I believe it is also a vital one. Our soldiers are the best in the world. They represent the very best of America. They deserve the very best equipment the country can provide. Our soldiers stand on the front line of freedom around the world, providing them with what they need to deter our enemies and, if necessary, fight and defeat them. is an enormous responsibility. It is one that, if confirmed, I will take very seriously every moment of every day. I look forward to your questions today, and if confirmed, working with this committee to support the United States Army.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. Now I have a series of questions which are directed to all civilian nominees. You may answer together. Have you adhered to applicable laws and regulations governing conflicts of interest?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you assumed any duties or taken any actions that would appear to presume the outcome of the confirmation process?
No.
No, Senator.
Exercising our legislative and oversight responsibility makes it important that this committee, its subcommittees, and other appropriate committees of Congress receive testimony, briefings, reports, records, and other information from the executive branch on a timely basis. Do you agree, if confirmed, to appear and testify before this committee when requested?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you agree to provide records, documents, and electronic communications in a timely manner when requested by this committee, its subcommittees, or other appropriate committees of Congress, and to consult with the requester regarding the basis for any good faith delay or denial in providing such records?
Yes.
Yes.
Will you ensure that your staff complies with deadlines established by this committee for the production of reports, records, and other information, including timely responding to hearing questions for the record?
Yes.
Yes.
Will you cooperate in providing witnesses and briefers in response to congressional requests?
Yes.
Will those witnesses and briefers be protected from reprisal before their testimony before this committee or any briefings they may give?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And now let me begin my round of questions. Mr. Guertin, as I alluded to in my opening statement, one of the tensions we have is we have been trying to accelerate the acquisition process, trying to keep it within course outlines, and frankly, there's been some really examples of delay and course overruns that are difficult to accept. And your job is to be sort of, in a way, the cop on the street, to not let anything through that isn't of great quality and capable of doing its job. So how do you intend to balance that need of people yelling for speed and you saying, stop, this is not ready for prime time?
One of the hallmarks of my career has been to be involved early in the development of products and thinking about how they're architected before it's too late. Setting the conditions for success early in a development program is especially important to making sure that you get to the place you want to in the end. So one of the things I would like to bring to the operational test community is a shift left mindset, getting more involved in some of the early decision makings and setting up those architectures and understanding how those systems are going to interact with the other things around it before the program gets so far down the road that they're going to be in trouble later. I've been involved in enough acquisitions and seen enough of these examples to fully appreciate where you're coming from, and if confirmed, I'll do my utmost to make sure we minimize those kinds of outcomes.
Thank you. Ms. Baker, you indicated in your testimony that part of your task will be to integrate a whole-of-government strategy, including elements of the Department of Defense as well as state, as well as other nations. Can you just give a brief sort of snapshot of how you intend to do this?
Sure, Senator. As I said in my opening statement, I believe that China is the only adversary that is capable of combining economic, diplomatic, military, and technological might to pose a challenge to the United States. I believe that they are proceeding in a whole-of-government approach, and our response needs to be whole-of-government as well. So if I'm confirmed, I would seek to work closely and support the undersecretary in working closely with our interagency partners at the State Department and elsewhere to ensure that our approach is integrated not only across military domains, but across the interagency.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coffey, the NDS Commission in their 2018 report, which has been very valuable to all of us, indicated that there's a concern about the balance between civilian officials and the military within DOD, that civilian control, which is the essence of our government, is not as robust as it should be. Are there any actions you believe that need to be taken in the Department of the Navy to ensure that civilian control is foremost?
Well, Senator, I agree, Mr. Chairman, I agree that the principle of civilian control in the military is paramount. I believe that with Secretary Austin at the helm of the Pentagon and with Secretary Del Toro at the helm of the Navy Department, that they are asserting the primacy of civilian control. I am unaware of any specific action that needs to be taken to emphasize that. If confirmed, I will certainly work with the Secretary Del Toro to see if he views that, and if need be, take whatever actions he directs to try and reinforce the principle that you just spoke to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coffey. And finally, Mr. Bush, cybersecurity is a ubiquitous problem. So my question is, do you think the Army at this juncture, with your experience, is correctly postured to address the full spectrum of cyber?
Mr. Chairman, I think the tools are in place and we have all the talent we need. I think now it's a question of coordination and activity. Within the acquisition world, we have many efforts underway, the Army does, to design cyber in up front, to do more cyber testing earlier, to work more closely with Army cyber and Army intelligence to maintain awareness of the threat as it evolves. I believe over time, though, it will need to become something that is just part of everything we do rather than being viewed as an additional duty. There's much work to be made, to be done over time to ensure that full integration takes place.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the witnesses for their statements and for their response, and let me now recognize Senator Wicker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I too want to thank the witnesses for their statements, and it seems that I've been gonged.
Well,
Ms. Baker, can you hear me?
continue, sir.
Yes, Senator, I can hear you.
Okay, I want those 15 seconds back, Mr. Chairman.
Now the lights came on.
Here we go.
You've got them.
Ms. Baker, thank you for your willingness to serve. You said in your opening statement that China is the pacing challenge, that the job of the Department of Defense is to deter adversaries, that there's no time to waste. I agree with you on all of that. And then in answer to a question by the chair, you referred to China as an adversary, and I agree with that. Let me ask about shipbuilding. I know it's going to come as a shock to my colleagues on the committee, but in 2010, China commissioned 4 warships, and the U.S. commissioned 2. That was 2010. 5 years later, China commissioned 12 warships. The United States commissioned 2. And in 2020, China commissioned 26 new warships, and the U.S. only 3. China now has the largest Navy in the world. Are you concerned about the priority China has placed on naval shipbuilding, and will you commit to supporting the statutory congressional mandate for a 355-ship Navy?
Senator, yes, I am concerned about the emphasis that China has put on building its fleet. I think that China has pursued a strategy of seeking to thwart U.S. advantages across the board, and certainly naval sea power is one area. If I'm confirmed, I will support the plan of record. I'd just say, in addition to everything else, that we need to be focused not only on the number of ships, which I agree is critically important, but also the capabilities that those ships bring to bear.
True, but there is a congressional mandate signed into law, passed by the Congress, House, and Senate, and signed by the President for 355 ships. Is that the plan of record that you support?
Yes, Senator, it is.
Okay, let me switch to Taiwan. The Republic of China on the island of Formosa, the Taiwanese government, it consists of 23 million citizens. They are the 21st largest economy in the world. They operate under a constitution that next year will be 3/4 of a century old. Do you believe that the people of the Republic of China on Taiwan have the right to self-determination?
Yes, Senator, I do.
And do you believe that preventing an invasion of Taiwan is in the national security interest of the United States of America?
Yes, Senator, I do.
And do you believe it is in the national security interests of our friends and allies in the Pacific Rim?
Yes, Senator.
Do you believe that they are currently capable of preventing an invasion by the People's Republic of China?
Senator, I would just say that our commitment to supporting Taiwan's self-defense is longstanding, it's bipartisan, and it's something that I'm prepared to support moving forward.
And in my judgment, the best way to prevent military conflict between the People's Republic and the Republic of China is for us to have an adequate Navy in the Pacific Rim, and for us to, for the United States to assist Taiwan in building up its defenses. Do you agree with that?
Yes, Senator, I do.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm concerned that as a matter of policy, the money that this current administration is requesting for military strength, particularly naval strength in the Pacific, is inadequate. And I do believe we're going to find support for that position on both sides of the dais here on this committee. So I look forward to working with you. But I will tell you, we need to change the trend and reverse the curve that we're currently facing. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Wicker. Let me recognize Senator Shaheen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to all of our nominees this morning, and we very much appreciate your willingness to continue to serve this country. Ms. Baker, I want to start with you, following up on some of Senator Wicker's questions about China and the importance of responding to the great power competition that we are now in. We heard over the weekend the reports that China had fired a hypersonic weapon. They walked that back, but it's very clear that they're working on that. And then we've also heard in the last day that North Korea has just fired 2 ballistic missiles. How high up on our priority list for both our national defense strategy and for the department should a response to both the hypersonic weapons and to what North Korea is currently doing be, and how should we be approaching that?
Thank you, Senator. As the Secretary has said, China is the pacing threat for the Department of Defense, and that means that we, I believe, if confirmed, will need to have a sense of urgency about developing not only the capabilities, but the concepts of operation that will allow us to counter some of the developments that we're seeing the PRC put forward. I think that they have pursued a strategy of seeking to blunt U.S. advantages over a number of years. So not only in terms of hypersonics, but space and counterspace, cyber, all of these are areas that, if confirmed, I would seek to prioritize. As it relates to North Korea, certainly their continued unwillingness to abide by their international obligations, the rapid pace of missile testing that we have seen in recent weeks, all of those things are concerning. I believe that the department has a responsibility to maintain a robust deterrent to ensure that we have forces positioned ready to fight tonight on the peninsula in order to provide that credible deterrent to Kim Jong-un.
Thank you. You mentioned in your opening statement the importance of personnel, and that needs to be our first priority. I was pleased to see Secretary Austin issue some guidance around our personnel who might be affected by Havana syndrome or the anomalous health incidents. But obviously, there's a lot more that we need to be doing to respond to that. We need to get to the bottom of who's responsible and how they're orchestrating these attacks. So if confirmed, do I have your commitment to work closely with this committee and provide timely updates on matters pertaining to these attacks?
Yes, Senator, absolutely. I have friends and colleagues who have been affected by anomalous health incidents. I take that very personally, and I will commit to work with you on this.
Good, thank you. Mr. Guertin, I had the opportunity to go up on a KC-46 air refueling mission with a crew from the 157th Refueling Wing at Pease in New Hampshire. We were the first guard base to get those KC-46 tankers, but as you know, they're still not operating the way they're supposed to operate. So if confirmed, do I have your commitment to ensure that testing and evaluation for the remote vision system 2.0 remains on schedule?
Yes, Senator. It's especially important that the systems operate the way that are tested the way they'll be operated operationally, and to have those things come out as a part of fielding them is not the time we want to discover those problems.
And will you ensure that this committee is notified of any further delays or problems with that remote vision system?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey, one of the big challenges that we have seen across our military, and the Navy unfortunately has not been exempt over the last decade, that has gotten a lot of attention, has been sexual assault. And obviously there have been concerns about how to respond to that and the culture of the military, and how it seems to, if not promote, at least condone sexual assault and sexual harassment. So can you talk about what role you can have as legal counsel to addressing this issue?
Thank you, Senator. There is no place in the Department of the Navy or anywhere in the military for sexual harassment, sexual assault, or any of those destructive behaviors. No room whatsoever. I was very distressed when I read the IRC report to see that something that I saw in my own active duty days and reserve duty days when we were first integrating women into combat units was not only not solved, it was worse. And it's very distressing to me. I'm very pleased to see that the IRC gave specific recommendations and that Secretary Austin has directed that the department will carry out every one of those recommendations, albeit some with some modifications. If I am confirmed, I would vigorously support implementing those changes on the roadmap that the Secretary of Defense has laid out. This is personal to me. I was in a squadron that suffered a lot of tension and disruption due to allegations of sexual assault. It was a priority for me when I was a commander, and it is distressing for me that many years later it's still a problem in the department. But if I am confirmed, I am absolutely committed to helping eradicate that scourge within the Department of the Navy.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you will make it a priority. Thank you, Mr.
I
Chairman.
will, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Shaheen. Senator Tuberville, which I think this sets the record for earliest recognition. So Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for all being here today. Mr. Bush, you've been a former tanker. You know, Anniston's Army Depot in Alabama is the only depot in the U.S. that performs maintenance on our tanks. Give me your thoughts about the future of our tank use in the United States military.
Senator, Anniston's part of the broader organic industrial base that supports the whole Army, and a vital part. We have to have it. And it has to be effective and efficient with a good workforce. I believe as long as the Army has heavy armored vehicles, there will be a major role for Anniston in supporting those efforts.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey, we recently had a young man arrested, court-martialed, because of saying something on social media about the war of Afghanistan. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, Senator, I'm vaguely aware of the circumstances of which you speak, and I understand it was handled within the Uniform Code of Military Justice System, which of course falls within the purview of the uniformed lawyers within the department. I understand that process may be ongoing in at least one shape or form, so I'd be reluctant to offer any opinion on the specific facts of that case. But I will say this, I firmly believe in the First Amendment. I believe in the right of every service member to have the beliefs that they believe. But there also, if you pull on a uniform, as I did for 30 years, you understand that there is a time and a place to voice those and that you're first and foremost a member of the military with a chain of command and respect for your superiors. And again, not tying it to this specific instance, but if you disobey direct orders, if your conduct threatens good order and discipline, then under the UCMJ, you can, in my view, should be held accountable. Again, without opining on the specific facts of that matter, sir.
Sure, thank you. Ms. Baker, your thoughts?
Senator, I am not a lawyer. I am not an expert on UCMJ, but as Mr. Coffey said, I am.
But you are into team building, right?
I do believe in prioritizing team building. I think, as Mr. Coffey said, everyone is entitled to their First Amendment rights, but at the end of the day, there is a chain of command, and that's something that we'll expect our service members to adhere to.
Yeah, we are in a business here of team building, as you said, and we need a strong and vibrant military. I want to know what your opinion is and your definition is of extremism. Could you tell me that?
Senator, I don't know that I can give you a textbook definition of the term.
But your thoughts.
What I can tell you is that I believe that the vast majority of our service members serve with honor and distinction. As the chairman said earlier, though, to the extent that there are individuals in the services who are seeking to disrupt that unity and that team building that you spoke of, that's something I think the Secretary has indicated he intends to prioritize.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Guertin, Alabama is a fast-growing hub for commercial engineering and software companies. What do you believe the DoD should be doing to monitor the development of these operational new commercial systems that we have?
So, Senator, the challenges we face in using new systems that are based on commercial technologies has one aspect to it is the supply chain. Where are those things coming from, and are they secure and suitable for military use? Our use case is not exactly the same as a university or your home. So we want to make sure that those products are suitable to the task, but also we want to take advantage of commercial technologies that allow us to move fast and effectively into the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your generosity.
Thank you, Senator Tuberville. And now let me recognize Senator Arundel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked the following two initial questions of all of the nominees who come before any of the committees on which I sit. So I'll ask the entire panel in unison. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
No, Senator.
Ms. Baker, you were asked by Senator Shaheen about China's hypersonic missiles, and you said that there would be a robust deterrent. And so I just wanted to also mention and take note of what China is doing, and of course, as it impacts Hawaii, not to mention what North Korea's missile testing is doing in the Indo-Pacific arena. So I just would like to ask you whether, since you acknowledge that we need to have a robust deterrent, that the DoD budgets will reflect this kind of robust deterrence in either this budget or in the following year's budgets.
Yes, Senator. I believe that the first responsibility of the Department of Defense is to defend the homeland. Of course, Hawaii is part of that, and so I would expect that we would have a robust and credible defense of Hawaii, and that we would put forward in the Indo-Pacific a credible deterrent.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey, earlier this month, the Washington Post reported federal agents are investigating a new corruption scandal involving alleged bribery and fraud related to service contracts when our ships and submarines pull into ports in Europe and the Middle East. I'm concerned that these facts are eerily reminiscent of the Glenn Defense Marine Asia, GDMA, contracting scandal in the Indo-Pacific. In a congressional hearing over 3 years ago, the Vice Chief of Naval Operations at that time assured my counterparts in the House that the Navy had installed new layers of oversight in its contracting process for overseas ports to thwart a report of the GDMA type of scandal, but that doesn't seem to have worked. If confirmed, what steps do you plan to take to ensure adequate controls are in place to prevent fraud in these overseas shipping service contracts?
Senator, there's no room in the Navy for any type of corruption along the lines of what you described, and I too was distressed to read about the MLS case a few weeks ago. I thought there were encouraging signs in the wake of the Glenn Defense Marine scandal, specifically the comprehensive review relating to the uniformed lawyers in the department and some of the recommendations they had made, which are being carried out and which I look forward to reviewing more closely if confirmed. But it's clear that there are still problems, and if I am confirmed, I would look to see how we can address those. From my time as a federal prosecutor and as a plaintiff's lawyer, I believe in personal accountability. So I think this is a problem that's going to need a continuing focus of leadership, focus on personal accountability, and reviewing what continues to go wrong. I hope it's isolated, but if I'm confirmed, I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it.
Really, I think we need your commitment that you will review whatever oversight procedures are already in place, because the Navy hardly needs these kinds of scandals. Mr. Guertin, the Navy's Pacific Missile Range Facility Barking Sands, PMRF on Kauai, is the world's largest instrumented multidimensional testing and training range. Continuing to integrate and upgrade PMRF along with other ranges in the Pacific is critical to our national security, and why that task is included as a line of effort within the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. Have you ever visited PMRF?
Not yet, Senator.
I hope you will. And, I'd like to ask you, what is the importance of this kind of facility and the importance of this type of initiative that I just mentioned?
Test ranges of the kinds that we have, especially the one in Hawaii, is critical to our ability to test weapon systems as they would be used in combat. All of our facilities need to be examined for how they might be modernized into the future. There's a great report turned out recently by the National Academies that highlighted some of the changes we need to make. If confirmed, I'm looking forward to getting into the details of that and working with the rest of the DOT&E team to figure out how to not just modernize, but also position these ranges so that they can keep pace with the evolving needs for the long haul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to note for Ms. Baker that I do appreciate your mentioning that climate change considerations are an important part of what you will be focusing on. And so climate change considerations in the operations planning and resource allocation decisions are very important. So I wanted to note that.
Yes, Senator, and I would look forward, if confirmed, to working with you on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Rono. Senator Kane, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Guertin, I want to ask you some questions. You are nominated for a very important position. One of your predecessors in the earlier this year, Dr. Ray O'Toole, who I think was the acting in your position, came before our Readiness Subcommittee and gave the following testimony, which troubled Senator Sullivan and I, the chair and ranking of the Readiness Subcommittee. And I quote, "DOD's acquisition and T&E communities need to address cybersecurity more comprehensively. Unfortunately, some programs do not properly plan for cybersecurity assessments. More critically, due to poor system hardening against dynamic cyber threats driven by lack of workforce, cyber capacity, talent, and tools within the program offices, virtually none of the programs assessed in FY20 were survivable against relevant cyber threats." That testimony was offered in an open hearing. Senator Sullivan and I both looked at each other and said, is this an open hearing? And the witness, Dr. O'Toole, said, I got this cleared for delivery of testimony in an open hearing. But it troubled us greatly that in the programs that were tested by your office, should you be confirmed in FY20, virtually none of the programs were survivable against relevant cyber threats. Do you think these survivability failures are due to poor acquisition policy, or is there a larger cultural problem within the DoD that we need to address to solve this, shocking weakness?
So, Senator, getting our cybersecurity right on our weapon systems is critically important to them actually being useful in the field. It's very affordable to attack our systems before they actually make it to the field, to get to the kinetic stage of the fight, so we got to get this right. And I again mentioned earlier, shifting left the view of the operational test community to get into those early stage decisions before people start on the path to developing their products, that they get those cybersecurity principles right up front, so that when they get out toward the end, when we're doing the actual operational test side of it, that they've positioned themselves well to be able to respond to the continuous evolving threat. It wouldn't be a big deal if we weren't being attacked all the time, and we are, and we need to position ourselves well for that.
You have experience both in software development and Navy weapons development, so I think you're in a unique posture to make sure when we're doing acquisition and early stage work on these programs that we build in cyber protections. A second issue that's come up recently, a family in Annapolis was caught by the FBI offering to sell classified information on a submarine reactor and propulsion design to another country. And that demonstrates just how damaging insider threats can be. The news report indicated that this particular individual was storing classified information on an SD card, hopefully to then transfer that information to another country. From your time with Naval Surface Warfare Center, do you think we do enough monitoring or have enough monitoring systems in place to flag potentially harmful activity like folks storing classified information on private SD cards?
Senator, I'm not familiar currently with the protection systems that are going on and say specifically Naval Surface or Undersea Warfare Center. I do know, having been an employee at those kinds of facilities in the past, that they actually do have very good protections. We did find this problem before it got out of hand, so chalk that up as a little bit of a win, but it's also dangerously close to getting it too far out of hand before it would be a real problem. So if confirmed, I'll make sure that the operational test community and the systems that we use are well positioned to be able to capture those things before they get out of hand.
And just, to a non-expert, I'm not an expert, are there software systems or AI programs that you think are sufficient to identify potentially harmful activity of the kind that, you're right, we did catch it and stopped the family from transferring the information, but do you think that there are software or AI programs that can help us ensure that this kind of data and activity is protected?
Senator, I couldn't make a definitive statement about the specific use of machine learning or artificial intelligence to capture that thing, that sort of activity. I do know that there is some research going on in that area from my time at the Software Engineering Institute. So if confirmed, it'd be a pleasure to look into that and find out how we can be more effective in that area.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Kane. Senator Howley, if you're ready, you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to the witnesses for being here. Mr. Bush, if I could just start with you, I want to talk first about something that's very important to my state, and that's the Lake City ammunition plant, also important for the next generation squad weapon. As you know, the Lake City Army ammunition plant does vital work ensuring that our warfighters are prepared and armed for any future conflict, and in particular, that plant produces ammunition for the next generation squad weapon. Here's my question. Do I have your commitment to ensure that Lake City will receive the facility upgrades that it needs in order to continue to produce ammunition at the rate that we need it to?
Senator, first let me say I was recently able to visit the facility, so I saw firsthand the great work done there and the great people that work there. Assuming the Army stays on its current plan for that program, it will need to build that ammunition at Lake City. Preliminary work is underway, and should the program stay on schedule, I would expect the Army to fund production efforts as well.
Very good. Thank you for that. Ms. Baker, let me come to you, and let's talk a little bit about China, if we could. Secretary Austin, Deputy Secretary Hicks, and Undersecretary Call have all testified that the U.S. has to maintain its ability to defeat a Chinese fait accompli vis-a-vis Taiwan. I have made it my habit in this committee to ask every witness, practically, from DOD, certainly those in a policymaking role, about this scenario, which I think is not only the pacing, China not only being the pacing threat, but the Taiwan challenge, the pacing scenario. So if I could just ask for a yes or no from you, do you agree with their testimony that it's vital that the U.S. maintain the ability to defeat a potential fait accompli against Taiwan?
Yes, Senator, I do.
Very good. And do you agree that the department should be prioritizing this scenario as it develops plans, concepts, and capabilities for the future?
Yes, Senator, I do. I think a Taiwan contingency is certainly among the most stressing scenarios that we can be planning for, and for that reason, it's critical that we prioritize it.
Great. I'm glad to hear that. Let me ask you about another aspect of this. Admiral Davidson and Admiral Aquilino have both testified to this committee that China may attempt a fait accompli in Taiwan before the end of this decade. And now it's widely thought that this is possible in the 2030s, but what caught my attention for both of them was their testimony that this is something we should be planning for and looking at in the 2020s. The Commandant of the Marine Corps and the Chief of Naval Operations have both said that they agree with that assessment, and the TRANSCOM commander and other officials have said the same. Do you agree that the threat of a Chinese fait accompli against Taiwan is something we need to be concerned about and planning for in this decade and not just in the 2030s?
Yes, Senator, I do.
Very good. Let me ask you something adjacent to this. Secretary Austin wrote earlier this year in response to a question from me, and I'm going to quote him now, that a combat-credible, forward deterrent posture is instrumental to the U.S. military's ability to deter and, if necessary, to deny a fait accompli scenario. The Deputy Secretary, the Undersecretary, and multiple commanders of INDOPACOM have reaffirmed the Secretary's emphasis on denial. Do you agree that a strategy of denial is essential for deterring Chinese aggression?
Yes, Senator, I do.
Very good. Let me shift gears just a little bit and ask you about some of the recent disturbing testimony that this committee has heard with regard to the situation in Afghanistan. Do you think it was appropriate for the United States to draw down nearly all of its forces in Afghanistan before we finish the evacuation of American citizens? And I'm thinking particularly given General Miller's warning that the Afghan security forces and government could collapse quickly.
Senator, not being at the department right now, I am familiar with the testimony that you are referencing. I understand that the department planned for a range of contingencies, including different levels of troops on the ground. I'm not in a position, I think, to assess the details of that planning.
Secretary Austin testified both to this committee and then more pointedly, actually, to the House Armed Services Committee that the non-combatant evacuation, he believes, should have begun earlier. It's reported that General Milley, reported in the press, that General Milley said the same thing, that, again, even more pointedly, that DOD warned the White House and state that the non-combatant evacuation had to begin earlier. It didn't, of course, and as a consequence, hundreds of civilians were killed, hundreds of Americans left behind, 13 service members killed. Do you agree with them that the non-combatant evacuation should have begun earlier in Afghanistan?
Senator, my understanding is that there was a robust interagency discussion about the timing of the NEO operations. I'm simply not currently in a position where I have the details that I would need to be able to really assess that.
I've got another question or two for you about the force planning construct in the 2018 NDS and a couple of other things related also to Russia. I'll submit those for the record because my time's expired. Thanks so much to all the witnesses, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Now, let me recognize Senator Blumenthal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to follow Senator Hawley's questions about the impact of our withdrawal from Afghanistan on both Americans who were left there and our Afghan partners and allies, many of whom are still there. You mentioned that there was a robust interagency discussion, and a number of us actually visited the White House in the spring in April and May to urge that there be evacuation and much more massive efforts at evacuation beginning then and not waiting. Now, you've been working on the National Security Council. Are you saying that the National Security Council was uninvolved in those discussions?
No, Senator. My role in the National Security Council is primarily related to drafting the national security strategy. I was not involved in the operational planning for the evacuation of Afghanistan.
So there was no preparation in terms of strategy for that evacuation?
Senator, I believe that there was. It simply was not in my job jar.
Let me ask you, looking forward, in terms of what we should do now, there have been 9 planes that have continued the evacuation effort. They are private planes, not United States military planes. We have no presence there, either diplomatically or militarily. Those 9 planes have evacuated approximately 300 people each, most of them interpreters, translators, guards, security personnel who sided with us, literally put their lives on the line, risked their families. But they are just a fraction of the total number of Afghan allies and partners who remain there in very severe danger. And the reason I'm asking about it is because they were of direct service to our men and women in uniform, often going into harm's way with them. And the President is committed to get them out. Do you agree with me that we ought to make, as a precondition of any serious talks or conversations or discussions with the Taliban, that they permit all of those Afghan allies who sided with us to leave if they want to do so?
Yes, Senator. I think we have a commitment that we make as a military to our partners on the ground, and that we need to abide by that. I think that the safe passage of not only American citizens and legal permanent residents, but also the Afghan partners that you describe should be a priority for moving forward.
My office has been directly involved in enabling a number of those planes to leave. It has been a torturous day and night process, and my feeling often has been that our own government is not as robustly supportive as it could be. Do you commit that you will be actively engaged personally with the Department of State in urging that we fulfill our commitment to those Afghan partners and allies, as well as the Americans who may still be there?
Yes, Senator, and let me thank you for the work that I know that you've done on this issue and the leadership that you've displayed. As you mentioned, the Department of State does have the lead on this for the interagency, but if I'm confirmed, I'll seek to ensure that the Department of Defense is providing all of the necessary support to the State Department.
Would you be willing to support the use of our United States military aircraft in that effort, if the Taliban permit it?
Senator, that's not an issue I've looked at directly, so I don't know that I can give you a direct answer, but if confirmed, I certainly would seek to get the details of what something like that could look like and have a follow-on discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Blumenthal. Senator King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Guertin, I want to follow up on Senator Kane's questions. There's no question in my mind that if there is some level of conflict, it will begin with cyber. And we can have all the ships in the world in the Pacific, but if they are silenced, if they lose their communications capability, their navigation capability, then they're not going to be very effective in protecting the interests of this country. Will you pursue actively and aggressively testing for cybersecurity of every system that comes under your purview in this new position?
So, Senator, the operational testing of software-intensive or software-reliant systems has to include cybersecurity testing as a part of its suitability for operational use. So that, I believe that policy is already in place, but I commit to you that we will make sure that that is pursued.
To your knowledge, does this department, this division office, have the capability to provide that kind of cyber security testing? This is a specialized field. Do you have hackers for hire in that office?
So we have red team people that can go in and have a high degree of expertise for doing penetration testing and finding out where the vulnerabilities lie and inform the programs what they need to do to go in and fix it.
I hope that you
I'm not
will-
certain, though, that we have like all of the people in place for testing every system. I would have to look into that and get back to you if confirmed.
Well, I view this as an absolutely essential and urgent part of your responsibility, and in terms of supply chain, in terms of acquisition of equipment. Nothing's going to work if it's subject to a cyber attack. Ms. Baker, one of your responsibilities will be to lead and develop the nuclear posture review. Without going into a great deal of discussion, do you believe that a no first use policy should be part of the new nuclear policy?
Senator, as the Deputy Secretary testified when she was last here, that's unlikely to be part of the nuclear posture review. That's ultimately a decision that's made by the President of the United States. If I was confirmed, though, I would seek to ensure, and I know the NPR is already well underway, but to ensure that the product is analytically rigorous, that it takes into account changes in the strategic environment, which includes the fact that we are facing now two nuclear-capable peer-near-peer adversaries, and that it reflects the input and advice of all components of the Department of Defense, to include our combatant commanders, EUCOM, INDOPACOM, and STRATCOM in particular. Ultimately, I think our obligation is to provide the best analytic product to the President in order to inform his choices.
Thank you. We just heard about the launch of a Chinese hypersonic missile from into orbit and then out of orbit. We're still talking about missile defense hitting a bullet with a bullet. I'm concerned that for years we've been talking about directed energy as a possible solution, and yet it just doesn't seem to be getting the attention, the research money that I believe it deserves in terms of its future capability. We're not going to be able to do missile defense against a hypersonic missile. I think it's very unlikely. Will you commit to, in terms of policy, looking hard at directed energy as a potential asset in the new world of missile defense?
Yes, Senator. I think there are a number of emerging and advanced technologies that we need to do a better job of incorporating into our concepts and our war planning, and certainly I would put directed energy in that category.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey, I have to begin by asking you, you were a P3 commander. Were you ever at Brunswick?
Only 3 different squadrons, Senator.
Only 3 different squadrons?
I was there for about 10 years of my 30 years, including command of Patrol Squadron 92.
At Brunswick Naval Air Station?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Beautiful Brunswick.
Thank you. In your advanced testimony, you mentioned accession to the Convention on the Law on the Sea would strengthen our global security posture. As a lawyer, do you see any legal objections to the accession of this country to the Law of the Sea Convention?
Senator, the Navy has been abiding by the tenets of that.
We're abiding by, but the problem is we're not at the table with the other.
We're not, and I don't see any legal obstacle to us signing on formally to that.
Do you think it's a strategic disadvantage to us to not be at the table under the Law of the Sea Convention?
I think our voice would carry more weight if we were at the table. I mean, we carry a lot of weight regardless, and I know our allies are abiding by it as well, but that is actually something in the purview of the General Counsel of the Department of Defense, and I certainly, if confirmed, would confer with her to see what we can do to advance the ball on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator King. Senator Scott, please.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. Thank you, each of you, for being here. Congratulations on your nominations and your willingness to serve. Just 2 weeks ago, the Chinese military sent nearly 150 warplanes over Taiwanese airspace. And we've heard the Communist Party General Secretary Xi express his intentions for taking over Taiwan. We have a long military relationship with the Taiwanese people, and as one of our most strategic partners in the region, I think we'd all agree they deserve our complete support. Ms. Baker, if confirmed, would you support providing Taiwan with robust military training and expertise to ensure its armed forces present a combat-credible deterrent?
Senator, I think that our commitments under the Taiwan Relations Act to support Taiwan's self-defense are longstanding. They are bipartisan, and I intend to support them if confirmed.
So you would support robust military training and expertise to ensure that they're a credible threat?
Yes, Senator, I would support meeting our commitments under the TRA.
Would you consider such military support to include individual and unit level training as well as training for operations that would make cooperation with U.S. and our other militaries more effective if Taiwan required it to defend itself?
Senator, I haven't looked at that question specifically, so I think I need to dig into some of the details and maybe get back to you with a more definitive answer. But certainly, I think that it's incredibly important that we improve the interoperability of our military to work with our partners and allies in the region, particularly as it might relate to a Taiwan scenario.
I realize that a primary goal for the U.S. is to enhance Taiwan's ability to engage in asymmetric warfare with a much stronger China. And I think we'd all would agree with that. But shouldn't we also consider ways to help Taiwan defend itself and hopefully be a great deterrent from whatever Communist China might throw at it, such as an enhanced Iron Dome system or a greater anti-missile defense system to make it clear to General Secretary Xi that he will not be permitted to take Taiwan by force?
Senator, I, again, have not looked specifically at the concept of an Iron Dome-like system. I understand that Taiwan is pursuing a strategy of building robust, lethal, mobile, asymmetric capabilities that I think makes a great deal of sense, but certainly these are all things that I think we can look at and should look at carefully.
Sure. But it's clearly worked for Israel. And this would be totally different. The capabilities of Communist China are totally different. But this concept of making the Taiwanese people comfortable and telling Xi that he will not be able to take them by force, I think would be helpful. Don't you agree?
Senator, certainly everything I know about the operation of the Iron Dome system in Israel indicates that it's been remarkably successful. I simply have not considered how that might translate into the Indo-Pacific.
Thank you. Mr. Bush, we're hearing of reports that Communist China has successfully tested a hypersonic weapon that's capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. We're also hearing that these reports surprised our intelligence community and Pentagon leadership. Do you believe that's true? And do you believe that the United States is comfortably ahead of China on nuclear warheads? Or is this launch evidence that we have a lot of work to do to modernize our nuclear capability?
Senator, I have not received a specific classified briefing on that event yet. I'm sure there are classified details I would need to know before giving you a good answer, sir. More broadly speaking, the entire DoD, including the Army, does need to continue to work rapidly to improve our deterrence capability, including in the area of hypersonic missiles.
All right. Ms. Baker and Mr. Guertin, what do you think about these reports about the hypersonic, and were we surprised, and do you believe that we need to modernize our nuclear arsenal to be able to defend ourselves against an aggressive communist leadership in China?
Senator, as Mr. Bush said, I think it's difficult to discuss the details in this open session, but certainly I agree a modern and credible nuclear deterrent is essential to Homeland Defense moving forward.
I concur with Ms. Baker on that point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Warren, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to each of our nominees. Welcome. And I want to say a special thank you to Ms. Baker for her commitment to serve. Her intellect and her integrity is matched only by her deep and abiding commitment to public service. And I was fortunate to benefit from her advice and counsel. She is precisely the kind of person that we should all hope agrees to serve in our government. Mr. Guertin, I would like to start with you today. There's something I'd like to be able to ask about, and that is the annual report published by the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation. This is one of the most important report cards for determining whether or not our weapons are working. The Section 809 panel, created by Congress to streamline and improve defense acquisition, found that the annual report, and I'm going to quote here, assists with both the office's internal success and the ability of Congress to exercise proper oversight. Now, this is where it's important to me to get some commitments from you. There's always pressure to keep elements of this report away from the public. So, Mr. Guertin, do you agree that this report must remain available to the public to the maximum extent possible?
So, Senator, transparency on how our weapon systems are doing is especially important so the public knows that we're doing a good job with the money we have or where we're not quite living up to our expectations. I commit to you that we'll have an unclassified report. I'll also assert that some of the stuff might be a little sensitive, that perhaps might be better suited for like a classified appendix of that sort of thing. Be happy to work with you on what are the balance points of those.
Good. So I take that as a yes, to the maximum extent possible.
Maximum extent possible.
Good. And do you commit to this committee that you will make this report and other reports from your office publicly available to the maximum extent possible?
To the maximum extent possible, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's very important to me. Now, one way to keep information from the public is to use pseudo-classifications, like for official use only, which means that the information is not deemed to be classified, but it's still restricted from public view. So let me ask you another question on this. Do you commit to avoiding the use of designations, such as for official use only, for the unclassified portions of the operational test and evaluation reports?
Senator, to the maximum extent possible, yes, but I think there's maybe some policy issues we might have to work out with Congress to make sure that the information is provided as unclassified and public released, but also not sensitive in some way.
All right. Well, we might have to talk through what sensitive means, because if it's not classified, then I think the public, generally, the presumption should be that the public has a right to know, and that's the commitment I want from you, to the maximum extent possible.
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And then my final question on this, do you commit to notifying this committee if you believe that your work is being wrongfully restricted or pseudo-classified or over-classified?
Senator, if there are any restrictions that don't make sense or not in the interest of the country, I'll make sure that we communicate that with this committee.
Good. I very much appreciate that. I plan to hold you to these commitments, and I look forward to working with you to ensure maximum transparency from your office. I think that's how both of us will better serve the American people. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Blackburn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to each of you for being here today. Mr. Coffey, I want to come to you. We saw the release of NABADMIN last week and the guidance on how sailors who are not fully vaccinated and do not have a pending or approved exemption will be punished administratively. So I've got some questions for you. Is it correct to say that sailors who are separated only for refusing the vaccine will, in the least favorable outcome, receive a discharge no lower than general under honorable conditions?
Well, Senator, I support the vaccination program. I think it's critically important that the force be vaccinated. I was vaccinated quite frequently when I was on active duty and as a reservist. I have not reviewed the NABADMIN you're talking about specifically.
Will you review it and then answer me specifically?
I would be happy to do that, Senator.
Thank you. Enlisted service members separated under this subparagraph will apparently not be eligible for involuntary separation pay and will be subject to recoupment of any unearned special or incentive pays. Can you articulate what the recoupment of any unearned special or incentive pays means, providing me a tangible example of this.
Well, I can speak to my own background, Senator. As a naval aviator, a naval flight officer,
No, I'm talking about the specific guidance. So why don't you do that one in writing, since you have not seen that? I can't believe you didn't look at that guidance before coming in here for this hearing. So look at it and then give me a written response with a tangible example. A general discharge allows the service member to use the majority of veterans programs and benefits, such as hiring preferences for federal jobs, VA medical coverage, and home loan benefits. Please confirm the following for the record. Will sailors who are separated only for refusing the vaccine be deemed ineligible from future military service, yes or no?
Senator, I'd have to
Okay.
submit that in writing
We'll
after the hearing.
submit that also. Is the GI Bill education benefit the only absolute benefit not awarded to service members with a general discharge, yes or no?
Same answer, Senator. I'll
Okay.
put that in my written
Is it
response.
fair to say that any sailor discharged for a vaccination refusal will not be entitled to their post-9/11 GI Bill benefit?
Same answer, Senator.
Okay. What happens to personnel from the other military services who are assigned to naval commands and refuse the vaccine? We would want to know that. So again, a
Same
written
answer, Your Honor.
answer. And then also, what happens to foreign military personnel, such as those studying U.S. professional military education courses, if they refuse the vaccine for religious reasons?
I will submit that as well.
I want you to know my office has been inundated with calls trying to get clarity on these issues. So I think it is so important that you all get these to us. One more, is it also correct that separation determinations made by the Navy will be centralized under the CCDA to ensure a fair and consistent process is applied across the board?
I'll be sure to provide the clarity you seek
Okay.
in my written response.
And then also a statement as to whether or not you think a centralized process is the best practice.
We'll do that as well, Senator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Baker, if I may come to you. As Senator Warren alluded, you have advised her on shaping her national security agenda, which, and I'm quoting, took aim at rising defense budgets and the revolving door between the Pentagon and the defense industry. If confirmed, would these be your priorities in the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy role? Would it be these rising DoD budgets and the defense industry?
Senator, the Secretary has been clear that China is the pacing threat for the department and should be our priority. So if I'm confirmed, I would seek to prioritize those issues.
Okay, well, we know that flat defense budgets are actually shrinking defense budgets. How do you reconcile this reality with your inherent bias toward, and I'm quoting you, taking aim at rising defense budgets because China is a priority? And we want to make certain that we are addressing that great power competition. So how do you reconcile that?
Senator, I agree that we need to be prioritizing issues surrounding great power competition, particularly with China. Where I start on questions of the defense budget is to start with the strategy first. And as you know, I think the department is well underway in drafting an update to the National Defense Strategy that will build, I believe, on the 2018 strategy. I think from there, we can look at the capabilities and investments that the strategy requires, and from there build back into a budget number.
And you think you can do that with less resources?
Senator, I would be guided by the strategy. So I don't have an arbitrary number in mind. I think we should resource to the strategy.
So you're saying you're going to leave your opinions at the door?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. Now let me recognize via WebEx Senator Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to each of the nominees. Congratulations on your nomination, and thank you for your willingness to serve our country. Mr. Coffey, my first question is for you. In August of 2019, Corporal Ann Vasas of Michigan unfortunately took her own life at a Marine Corps air station in Japan. The Vasas family was told that the command investigation was concluded, but the release of the final report requires additional approvals, and they have been now waiting for 2 years. As general counsel, will you maintain a close relationship with the staff judge advocate and have a role in oversight of the Naval Criminal Investigative Service if confirmed?
Senator, let me begin by expressing my condolences to the family, and it's something I'll look into if confirmed. Yes, Senator, I commit to working closely with the uniformed lawyers of the department. I understand there's a very good relationship now, a one team, one mission approach that I heartily endorse. And I will likewise work closely with the undersecretary or the secretary, whoever is at the present time overseeing NCIS. I do think that my background as a federal prosecutor working with law enforcement will be beneficial if I am confirmed.
Well, I certainly hope that the Vasas family has achieved some degree of closure by the time that you have been confirmed. But I'm still going to ask for your help in resolving this matter for them. And more broadly, I just want to get a clear confirmation from you that you're going to strive to ensure that the legal and investigative mechanisms in the department are working to ensure timely, open, and regular contact with the next of kin in the event of a tragedy such as this.
Senator, you have my commitment that if I am confirmed, I will act accordingly. I will do that.
Well, I appreciate that. Mr. Bush, as vehicles get smarter, automotive cybersecurity is clearly becoming an increasing concern. The economic loss and military risk that's posed by cyber attacks on the U.S. vehicle ecosystem is certainly significant, as no single firm has the expertise, the resources, or quite frankly, the technical depth to independently address all of these cybersecurity threats. So my question for you, Mr. Bush, is what is your vision for how the Army can secure our increasingly networked vehicle fleet from cyber attacks?
Senator, I think for new programs, we can start up front by building in the right architecture and the right cybersecurity early so that we have systems in place that we can test and be reliant upon to ensure that our vehicles are cyber secure. I believe there is a greater challenge working on older vehicles where they were designed in times when cyber didn't even exist, and they've had systems added to them over the years in a less systematic way. I believe that in those cases, we will need to come up with a better way of testing those federated type systems in older vehicles to make sure they are cyber secure as well. And lastly, I would add that Army vehicles historically have been designed to be able to continue to fight with degraded conditions. So I believe it would be incumbent for the Army to ensure that new systems, even if under cyber attacks, still retain some combat capability so our soldiers can continue fighting.
We are having technical difficulties. Let us wait a moment to see if we can restore. Let me at this point recognize, if we can. Senator Peters, are you back with us? Senator,
Am I back here now?
you're back. You've reappeared.
Oh, good.
And
Well,
you have
good.
35
well,
seconds.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave that as my last question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Peters. Now let me recognize once again via WebEx, if it's functioning properly, Senator Manchin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this will be to Ms. Baker. The Iran nuclear agreement, formerly known as a JCPOA, was a great goal that fell extremely short. I voted against the agreement 2015 because it rewarded Iran before they demonstrate any desire to return to good order in the global community, and it failed to address their terrorism financing or conventional weapons development. So my question would be, with an on and off again negotiation taking place, what concessions would you hope to see in a new version of the Iran deal? And my follow-up to that, Ms. Baker, would be France, Germany, and United Kingdom launched a barter system known as NSTEC to facilitate transactions between them and Iran. Can you comment on that?
Senator, thank you for the question. To your first point about what concessions would we seek, certainly my understanding is that the intent of returning to negotiations around the JCPOA was to use that as a foundation to build toward a longer and stronger deal. Certainly there are any number of Iranian destabilizing activities in the region that are not covered by the JCPOA, to include their support for terrorist groups, militias, the proliferation of ballistic missile technology, UAV technology, threats to freedom of navigation, all of which I think we should seek to address. I will say that...
Anything on NSTEC, you know that?
I'm sorry, Senator, I couldn't hear you.
Do you have any information, do you have any thoughts on NSTEC, INSTEK, which is what United Kingdom, Germany, and France have launched?
Senator, I don't have any details on that. Certainly it's something I'd be prepared, if confirmed, to look into with my interagency colleagues and get back to you for a longer discussion.
Okay. No problem. I understand. And here, this is to you again, ma'am, and I don't mean this to be personal at all. I just want to make sure I'm stating the facts here. You have a total of 10 years of 7 months of experience working as a federal employee, with 1 year and 7 months inside the Department of Defense. What is concerning to me is the entirety of your careers is based on the partisanship. You've never worked for a Republican administration or a moderate member that we can see. And this toxic atmosphere that we're in right now, it takes working across the aisle, understanding both sides. So my question would be, tell me about any tangible experience that you believe demonstrates how you could approach this position from a nonpartisan stance.
Senator, respectfully, I believe that I have demonstrated in my career an ability to work across the aisle in a bipartisan fashion, something I was very proud of as a Senate staffer here working with this committee. I was also a nonpartisan career civil servant for a number of years. In addition to serving here in the Senate, I have worked for national security principles that held a variety of views, to include former HASC Chairman Nickolas Guertin, former Secretary of Defense Ash Carter. So I do understand, Senator, I understand the concern, and I think it's a valid one. I believe that I have a track record that will enable me, if confirmed, to approach this role in a nonpartisan fashion, and that's certainly how I would intend to conduct myself.
Thank you very much. Mr. Guertin, if you could, I share your vision for a renewed approach to evaluation and system performance within the program and development process. One of the areas I believe that we need to focus on is direct input and effects of the warfighter, especially as it relates to effectiveness on the battlefield. The past week, my office spent a considerable amount of time with the staff from the WVU, West Virginia University, Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute, who lead the world in advanced neurological care. So can you commit to scheduling a tour to the state of the art facility with my staff and at Western University personnel who already are working with the Marine Corps to potentially standardize the capability of the future test and development efforts? We just need you there.
Senator, it sounds like a great opportunity. I'm looking forward to meeting you there and learning about those things.
We'd love to. It's unbelievable. Final question to Mr. Bush. We share a significant amount of similarities when it comes to our future need to transition from an industrial age to an information age, approach to acquisitions, cybersecurity, and supply chain security. My fear, though, is that we will leave our small businesses further behind than where they are currently if we do not make a prioritized effort to bring them along. So my question is, how will you shape future efforts to support small businesses against growing cybersecurity requirements? How are they going to be able to compete and maintain any type of viability?
Senator, first of all, I'd like to say I'm proud of the Army's past track record leading the department in overall small business contracting. The specific issue you mentioned is a challenging one. The department and the Army want more small businesses and more diverse businesses involved. However, we also have cybersecurity concerns. Senator, I believe, like in other aspects of the small business program, it's going to require partnership and the department and the services working with companies and developing ways to collaborate so that they can achieve the level of cybersecurity necessary to participate in bigger and bigger programs.
Thank you. Thank all three of you. I appreciate your answers.
Thank you, Senator Manchin. Now via WebEx, let me recognize Senator Rosen.
Well, thank you, Chairman Reed, and of course, Ranking Member Inhofe. And I want to thank all the nominees for being here today, for your service and willingness to serve going forward. And like Senator Manchin said, cybersecurity is so important. I have a number of bills to that effect, and we're going to talk about one of them today because as our adversaries actively try to undermine our interests via cyber attacks, we have to continue to invest in cyber talent. That's going to increase our capabilities, allow us to defend forward. So this year's Senate NDAA, as reported out of this committee, it includes my Civilian Cybersecurity Reserve Act, and it's bipartisan legislation I introduced with Senator Blackburn to create a civilian cyber reserves that ensures additional cyber capacity at greatest times of need. So Ms. Baker, if confirmed, what are the steps that you would take to improve the cybersecurity posture of our most critical systems through workforce investments? Because we have a lot out there. This needs to be in line with both our national defense strategy and the President's budget's request proposing significant growth of the cyber mission force. And more specifically, how would you use existing authorities and potentially my act to protect our critical assets?
Senator, first let me say thank you for your leadership on this critical issue. As we've discussed here today, the cybersecurity of the department's systems is what will allow us to fight and prevail in a high-end contingency. As I'm sure you know, the department has a cyber strategy that has 3 components. Requires the department to be able to fight and win the nation's wars in the cyber domain, to protect the Department of Defense Information Network, the DoDIN, and then, of course, to protect the nation. And we do that, as you said, by defending forward. If I am confirmed, I can commit to you that I will make a priority of developing new and agile concepts of operations in the cyber domain. I would work closely with my colleagues in the services and elsewhere in the department to ensure that we're appropriately resourced and that we have a workforce that is capable of operating in the cyber domain. I have not, unfortunately, yet had an opportunity, Senator, to look at your legislation specifically, but certainly I think new and innovative ways of approaching the cyber challenge is exactly what's needed. And so if confirmed, I will commit to looking into that and would welcome a chance for further conversation.
Great. I'll have you over to the office and we can talk about the Civilian Cyber Reserve Act. But I'm glad you're talking about all the different postures you have because I want to talk about the zero trust security model because you know cyber threats exist both inside and outside traditional network boundaries. So earlier this year, the National Security Agency issued a cybersecurity bulletin entitled Embracing a Zero Trust Security Model and strongly recommends zero trust security be considered for critical networks, including national security systems, Department of Defense networks, and our defense-based, industrial-based systems. And so the timeline for implementation and completion not yet known, but if confirmed, how would you use your position to encourage the DoD-wide adoption of the zero trust security model?
Senator, if confirmed in this position, I would certainly seek to ensure that our policies were in alignment. Certainly, I take your point that there are cyber vulnerabilities that arise both from without and from within, and we need to be prepared to manage both of those cases. I'd seek to work closely with the DoD CIO, with the Principal Cyber Advisor, and others to ensure that we have the appropriate plans in place.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And speaking of issues from without, we want to combat Iranian aggression because Iran continues to be the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism and a threat to the U.S. and allied interests via its ballistic ballistic missile program and support for terrorist proxies like Hezbollah, including through conventional weapon sales. The combination of Iran acquiring advanced Russian and Chinese platforms and its transfer of arms to terrorist groups like Hezbollah poses significant conventional threats to U.S. personnel in the region and undermines Israel's voluntary military edge, or QME. So, Ms. Baker, again, I guess you could put this off the record. I'm just about out of time. If confirmed, how would you work to combat Iranian aggression, secure our U.S. interests against rogue state actors like Iran, and maintain our ally Israel's QME? And since I'm out of time, I'm not sure there's someone after me. You can submit that in writing, please.
Senator, yes, absolutely. I agree with everything you said, and I'm happy to submit a longer answer for the record.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Rosen. Let me recognize Senator Kelly and thank him for his patience. Thank you, Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations to each of the nominees, and thanks for your willingness to continue to serve our nation. My first question is for Mr. Guertin. I want to talk a little bit about the F-35. I've had a chance myself to fly the simulator, and as a former test pilot, it's an impressive platform, and I think it will serve the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marine Corps very well. And I'm very honored that Arizona is going to continue to host F-35 squadrons at Luke and at Yuma Marine Corps Air Station. But I'm concerned that delays related to testing in the joint simulated environment have gotten off track in completing test and evaluation and starting to get us towards closer to full rate production. Leveraging digital assets like these in testing and design is the way of the future. I'm convinced of that. So it's important that we get it right and apply the lessons we're learning now to future upgrades for the F-35 and the next generation fighter aircraft, NGAD, and anything beyond that. So could you give me an assessment of what you think the lessons are so far in what we've experienced with the testing in the joint simulated environment?
So, Senator, one of the things we need to be thinking about as we move forward into the future is a tighter alignment between modeling complex systems like the F-35. It's got a lot going on under the hood. Some things you're not going to be able to test operationally all at the same time in a threat representative environment. So we need to be thinking about how we combine modeling and simulation of those environments with live physical testing. The F-35 has been a great object lesson, a use case that we need to be taking full advantage of, the lessons, both good and bad, and how we position ourselves in the future for taking advantage of those kinds of technologies as we build out these more and more complex systems as we move further forward into the future.
Part of the value of simulated testing is that we can examine both aircraft and weapon system performance in these complex scenarios that better approximate what we'll face in combat. With that in mind, how important is it to incorporate cyber and space domains in these simulated tests?
So, Senator, it's critically important that the operational tests encompass all of the things that the weapon system will see when it's being used, which includes cyber. It's a big part of the problem because you can't use it if you can't if you're turned off before you get a chance to take advantage of it. The other thing you did mention, though, that I want to park on is the opportunity to iterate on designs and take advantage of those kind of digital twins and modeling environments so that you can explore how that system might be built better into the future.
And do you think this needs to also account for emergent capabilities like AI as well?
Indeed it does, yes.
I just want to switch in the remaining time I have here, Mr. Guertin, with you as well. In modern warfare, as we all know, software can be important to our success and as important as the hardware, the equipment, and software often advances much more quickly. You touched on this theme, I think, in your opening remarks. we're going to need to improve our ability to more effectively integrate rapidly changing software. And it's also one of the most challenging things we deal with, whether it's military hardware or space, software, reliability and testing and verification. What have we learned from our efforts to incorporate more agile development practices with Block 4 upgrades to the F-35?
Senator, I'm not be able to talk about Block 4 specifically. I've been briefed on the details of it. But I do want to say that some of the systems I've worked on in the past, even going back to the mid-1990s, to build these things so they can evolve gracefully over time. In those early stages when we were using open architectures and submarine sonar systems, we thought we were totally knocking it out of the park by having annual updates. Today, that might not be fast enough depending on the product, and it certainly isn't fast enough for a lot of the things we hold and use in an everyday life. So we need to be thinking about how do we, shift left in terms of our understanding of how things are built, but also be responsive and fast on our feet when it comes to being responsive to the user's needs as they see and would use them in operational context in the Joint Force.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to working with you and your office as we get these new weapon systems fully evaluated and tested and through OT&E and out to the fleet. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Kelly, and I want to thank the witnesses for their thoughtful testimony and their statements and their commitment to public service. And with that, I will adjourn the hearing. Thank you very much.